Hi guys, it's Nicole here from The Little Craft House. So last week over on Instagram, I created a reel that showed how to make a beautiful pastel skinner blend. Then from that blend, I made some earrings, and from the scraps of those earrings, I made these earrings. So it was really popular and I had a lot of questions. So I thought I would come on over here onto YouTube and I'd recreate it again because I absolutely loved how it turned out anyway. So I thought I'd recreate it and go step by step with you guys so that you can see how I did it. So stay with me and we'll work through it all together. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to cut myself a nice big chunk of white. I'm using Cernit brand today. Okay, so I'm going to condition up my white clay now. I've cut it into some smaller, thinner pieces, and I'm going to use my acrylic roller to get it conditioned up, so just making it more soft and pliable and easy to work with before I go and put it through the pasta machine. Okay, so I'm going to start passing my clay now through the pasta machine. I've got it set on the thickest setting, which for this machine is a number 1. And I'm just going to keep passing it through just until it has softened up that little bit more. Okay, so that'll probably do it for now, and I'm just going to move my machine down to a thinner setting now. I might move it to 2 notches down, and then I'm just going to pass it through and just make it that little bit thinner. Like that. And I'm just going to pop this piece aside now because we're going to come back to that one afterwards. Okay, so our next step is that we need to organise what colours we're going to use in the blends. So in my original video, I used a couple of mixed scrap colours that I had, but for today's tutorial, I'm going to use packet colours just so it's easier for you guys to see how it turns out. And if you want to recreate it the same, then you're able to. So most of my colours are, well, they're all from the Sculpey range, and most are Primo, but I have 2 soufflés. So I've got... This one's the Blackberry Pearl. This was one of the newer ones. It's beautiful. As you can see, I've only got a little bit left of that one. We're going to go with some Coral, also Indigo Metallic, which is also a beautiful shiny one. We've got the Primo Apricot, Soufflé Canary, and Soufflé Fiji. Where's his name? Yep, Fiji. Alright, so I'm going to cut a piece of each of these. I don't need too much, just a little piece, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so I've cut little pieces of each of these, and I've given them a quick little squish in my fingers to get them a little bit conditioned. I didn't do a very good job of getting the colours even here, so I might have to just even them up in a second. So I'm just going to put them in the order of how I want the blend to be. I'm just going to try and roll them so that they're all about the same size. originally cut way too much, and now I haven't cut enough. Oh, I've got some colour transfer. Now most of these clays, because they're new and they're straight out of the packet, they are pretty soft, so they don't need too much to get them conditioned. Plus we're going to be rolling them through the pasta machine quite a few times, so that's also going to get them all soft as well. Actually, those two colours need to switch. Alrighty. So I'm just going to give them a quick roll with the acrylic roller again, just to flatten them out. Okay, just going to pop that to the side for a second and bring my white back over. Now, I think my white might be a little bit too big, so I might just trim that down a little bit. Stairs to the side. Pop that on top and trim that down a little bit too. Then I'm just going to give another roll of this. We're going to be popping this through the pasta machine, so we don't want it to be too thick. Just trying to bring it down a little bit. All right, that will be fine. All right, so now's the fun bit, to start popping it through the machine and letting it start to do its magic. Okay, so I've adjusted my machine back to the thickest setting, and I'm just going to start passing my clay through it. So then I'm going to fold my clay in half, and I'm going to run it through again. And I'm just going to keep doing this, popping it through, folding it in half, and always running it so that the colours are going straight down. I'm just going to keep doing that over and over until my colours start to blend. Might go one more time. Okay, so this has turned out beautiful. I absolutely love it. And now comes the part to cut it, which always stresses me out because I never know what shapes to cut out. But I think I'm going to go simple this time, and I've got a couple of flowers and a heart. And so my plan is to do 3 hearts in a row, 3 flowers in a row, and maybe a little flower with a big flower underneath. So I'll see how much I can get cut out of it. And I also, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to cut it out. Let's see how we go. I think I'm going to turn it this way because I want the colours to run from top down so that it's graduating that way rather than graduating sideways. So yeah, this is the way I'm going to cut it out. I finished cutting out my pieces, and I've tried to fill as much of the slab, or try and cut out as much of the slab as possible, so that I'm using the most amount of the clay. I've gone through and used my little circle cutters to add in some just studs in there, as I quite often do stud packs as well as my dangles, but I also thought it could be an option to put as the top, as a topper as well, and then hang the flowers underneath. I didn't get as many hearts as what I wanted, but I thought I could still do just 2 hearts in a row rather than the 3 hearts in a row. All right, so I'm just going to peel this back, and I'm going to be really careful because our next part of this tutorial is using these scraps, so I don't want to just scrunch them and mess them all up. I want to keep the color, the gradient color, as is. Okay, so I'm going to pop these to the side because we're going to use them in just a minute. I'm just going to use my flexi blade to release the pieces from the clay, and I'm just going to pop them onto my baking tray and get ready to have them in the oven. So if you guys have followed me for a while, you'll know that I hate having scrap clay. I hate having it go wasted. So I like to use up my scraps in any way that I can. So whether that be to combine them together to make new colors, whether it means using them for, I don't know, canes and things like that, just doing something with them so that it doesn't end up in the bin, or it doesn't end up being mixed into just a gross color, which would happen if I mixed this, I reckon. I think if I mix this up, it would just end up being a blur, unusable colour. So instead, we're going to use some moulds to make them into some pretty pastel flowers. So I have a few different silicone moulds here. These are 2 that we sell in our store, and this one here is one that I made. It is a really ugly one. I try not to show the back of this one because, yeah, it's ugly, but it is my favourite mould. So I think on Instagram, if you scroll way back, you'll see me making this one, and I will do another tutorial showing how to do this at some point too. But if you don't have this one, you've got these ones, or similar. It wouldn't even have to be flowers, it could be anything. Silicone ones work really well though. I like the ease of popping the flowers out. So to start with, I need to do the center of the flowers. So I've got myself some yellow here, and I'm just going to cut some small little pieces. Make them into a ball and pop them in the center. That one's a bit small actually. We'll just work on this one for now. So then I get my ball tool. So this one's got quite a big ball on the end of it, and I squish that in. Let's make sure it's not overflowing onto the petals. And then we're going to use the colours. So I'm going to chop out some little bits. I'm just going to push them into the mould. So I like to work it with my finger, just giving it really good push in. You can use your ball tool if you want to just squish it all in. And then I'm going to use my flexi blade. So that's the flexible one. It's nice and bendy. And we're going to scrape off all the extra clay that's on the top there. Be super careful you don't chop your fingers. All right, so I'm going to work on some more of these and then we will make it into a nice pretty slab all together. Right, so I'm quite proud of myself here because those scraps that you see at the side of the screen there, that is all that I have left from the original slab that we created at the beginning. So now that I've cut my original pieces and I've made all the flowers, that is all that is left. So I'm going to do these 2 flowers here plus probably one more with the bits that I'm going to scrape off, and then that's it. I haven't wasted any of that clay. It has all been used and they're all going to be pretty earrings. Here's a bit of a mangled one, but we might be able to just use half of him. Okay, so the base clay that we're going to use today is also scrap clay. Majority of it is the indigo metallic, but there is also quite a bit of a translucent blue that I had made and didn't end up using, along with some offcuts of another few translucent colours. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to bake up, but I think it'll be fine because we're going to cover it quite a bit with flowers. So I took this down a bit thinner on the pasta machine as well, so that it's just a fairly thin base, because we don't want to make it too chunky and heavy once we add these flowers, because they are a little bit, they're not super thick, but they are a little bit thicker. Now I'm going to start arranging the flowers on the base clay, and I'm not going to press them down because I don't want them to be permanent at the moment. I'm probably going to have to move them around a little bit afterwards to fit into the shapes. So I'm just going to lightly press them to stay, but they are going to be removable. Once I use my cutter, I'll then press them down so that they are more permanent. So I'm going to save a couple of flowers as well and not put them onto this slab, and they are going to be ones that I'm going to use for toppers. So I've saved 4 of the best ones and I've popped them to the side, and yeah, they'll be used on the tops. Right, so again with the awkward cutting out. Now I'm going to try and angle my shape so that the very top of my shapes doesn't have a flower there. This will just make it easier for when I drill my holes, that the hole won't be too thick, so I'll be able to fit my normal jump rings in, and also just that it's easier to drill the hole without having a flower in that position. Now, as I've got my cutter over here, I'm just pressing those flowers down just to now make them permanently in that position. And I fiddled with this one a little bit too much, and I got so close to the one that I'd already cut out. It actually didn't cut into it. I'm so lucky because I was so busy trying to position the cutter with the flowers that I didn't even look at where that other arch that I just cut was. But yeah, it is literally just skims down the side of it. So it was nearly a big mistake, but luckily I was able to avoid that. And because there wasn't room for the 4th one, I'm just putting a little indent here onto the clay and just positioning those spare flowers onto it, so that way I make sure that I get my 4th one without it being too sparse. So I'm just going to use all those little bits. I'm pulling that little bit up there. I'm going to pop that into the gap in a second. So just cutting it properly and just squeezing that bit in there so it's not too empty. As I'm lifting the pieces off the tile here, I'm just smoothing the edges. This just helps to reduce the amount that needs to be sanded later. So I'll go pop these in the oven now, and then I'll get them all baked up and ready for assembling. So I'm not going to cover the sanding, drilling and assembling process today, just because I've covered this lots of times before in my other tutorials. That being said, if you would like me to dedicate a whole tutorial to just those processes, please just leave me a note in the comment section and I'll see what I can come up with. And so this brings me to pretty much the end of the tutorial today. So I've now got myself a really beautiful pastel flower collection and really minimal amount of scraps left. So I hope you guys have enjoyed coming along with me today making these earrings. I'd appreciate any likes and subscribes, and I'd also love it if you popped over to Instagram and follow me over there. That's where I promote my tutorials, as well as popping up other bits of daily inspiration and tutorials over there. So thanks again for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you again next time. Bye.